What is up, my bodyweight warriors, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about weight training, that devil that tends to make you stiff and tight. Or maybe that's not so much the case. In fact, it's definitely not the case. And in this video today, I'm going to explain to you why and how you can adjust your strength training or weight training to make things better. I can't tell you how many times I have this comment or this question saying, oh, I used to do weight training or powerlifting or bodybuilding or whatever, and I just was stiff and tight, and then I started doing bodyweight training and now everything kind of goes away. And yes, that's kind of true, but the reason for it isn't the fact that you're doing weight training and lifting weights that makes you tight and then bodyweight training which doesn't. The reason is to do with how you're applying the exercise. When it comes to bodyweight training, we naturally have to use a greater range of motion when we're performing exercises because of the moves that we're going to be doing. If we're doing the back lever, if we're doing dips, we're going to be putting our shoulder through more range of motion. When we're doing traditional weight training, we tend to restrict that range of motion a little bit because we're going to maybe lift some heavier weights or for whatever reason it is. So in fact, the issue isn't the fact that weight training makes you stiff and bodyweight training or other training doesn't make you stiff, versus the issue is range of motion. You either use it or you lose it. So this is where mobility comes in, and mobility basically could be defined as strength through a range of motion. And yes, we can develop this through different flexibility or mobility exercises, but we can also just choose to incorporate this into our normal training. And that's how we can use weight training to become more flexible. All you have to do is look at any Olympic lifting athlete. They have incredible overhead flexibility and they have incredible squat flexibility. Now, many of these Olympic athletes aren't going to sit there for 30 to 45 minutes before their session doing some smashes with a lacrosse ball, some distractions for the hip, etc., etc. Most of them just have their mobility work incorporated into their training, making it much more effective. They just get strong for a range of motion. So I'm going to give you a few examples of how that might look like. So let's look at the split squat or lunge. Now, traditionally, this is just going to be performed in a nice, simple up and down manner. Maybe you're using dumbbells, maybe using a barbell. Either way, it's just pretty basic way of loading the quads. How can we modify this to make it so we can also increase our flexibility and strength through range of motion at the same time? And that would be by performing something called a Poliquin style split squat. And this would mean that instead of going up and down like an elevator, we're going to go diagonally up and down like an escalator. So what we do here is we take a little bit of a longer stance and we try to push that front leg over the front foot. So it's going to help increase our flexibility around our ankle and then also in knee flexion. And then with the back leg, we're also going to get a little bit more extension, so a little bit of a stretch through the hip flexor because we have that longer stance. Now, this is a very simple alteration that can be made and you can adjust it based on your flexibility levels. You don't have to go from 0 to everything all at once. Essentially going to be the same movement. Both are going to help develop both strength and mass in the quads in that unilateral pattern, but one of them is going to develop a pretty decent level of flexibility and the other isn't. So it's not the weight training, it's the application. Another example of how we can create flexibility with weight training would be the Romanian deadlift. Actually, this just by itself, without any real modifications at all, is going to be a great way at improving your hamstring flexibility if you choose to take that bias. Yes, we can load up the Romanian deadlift with a bunch of weight and lift heavy. It's a great way of developing strength in that posterior chain, but we can take a little bit of a bias and focus on developing flexibility with it as well. We can choose to use a higher rep range and we can focus on trying to create more range of motion. Just as itself, it's a great way of increasing hamstring flexibility because we bend the knee slightly, we hinge down as far as we can with that neutral spine, we get the hip hinge working, we stretch the hamstrings and load them, and then we come back up. If we use a little bit less weight, if we focus on trying to get a little bit more range of motion out of it, we're going to also build flexibility at the same time as developing strength in the hamstrings and posterior chain. That kind of covers us for the lower body. There's also ways in which you can add things in for the upper body. A great example of this would be one of probably the best exercises to correct overuse and bad shoulder posture from like lots of bench press, and that would be the trap 3 raise. This is going to help strengthen the lower traps, but it's going to help strengthen our ability to lift our shoulders into shoulder flexion. It's going to help improve our overhead flexibility at the same time as getting strong. Plus, it will probably help with structural balance and balancing out the shoulders as well. Start with a lighter weight, start trying to increase the range of motion, and then progressively over time, as you get stronger and stronger at that end range, as you build that strength through range of motion, you're going to also increase your overhead ability and also make some more stable and stronger and more balanced shoulders in the process. So really, this is more of a rant video. It's just that weight training doesn't make you stiff. Weight training is actually a very effective tool to build flexibility if you do it right. It's resistance training or training done wrong that makes you stiff, whether that is body weight or weight training. If you don't choose to take that use it or lose it mentality when it comes to range of motion, then you're not gonna preserve it, you're not gonna develop it. If you try to incorporate that into your training, regardless of what you're doing, you're gonna get more flexible and you're gonna be able to maintain your flexibility without very little work outside of it. But that is basically my 2 cents on the topic. As I said, it's a little bit of a rant video, just something that I get asked a lot and it kind of just annoys me because it's not necessarily true. It's just one of those myths that gets kind of continually referenced over and over again and then becomes common knowledge. But that being said, if you do have any questions about today's video, if you found this video helpful, let me know in the comments section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on weight training and whether or not it can make you tighter. If you just enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, just hit that thumbs up button and support the channel. Right next to it, of course, is that subscribe button if you want to join the Bodyweight Warrior tribe and don't miss out on any more future videos. But that has basically been it for this week, guys. I'll catch you in the next episode. Have a strong week and peace.